The awake person notices details that most people pass by, the patterns that connect a stranger's words to a later event, the small recurring signs that reveal the hidden logic behind daily life. The asleep person repeats moods, follows habits, and accepts the first convenient explanation that arrives, which means life compresses into a series of pre-programmed responses rather than an unfolding mystery to be explored. This difference in habit of attention changes everything: choices, relationships, work, and the stories that shape a lifetime. A simple list of behaviors marks the sleeper more than any label does, and those behaviors appear in everyday life. The sleepwalker grabs at distraction when discomfort comes, and the phone becomes the quickest anesthetic for boredom or fear. The sleepwalker accepts approval as truth, and choices follow applause rather than inner sense. The sleepwalker repeats inherited stories about what success looks like, and the rhythm of life becomes a loop of doing, buying, and numbing. By contrast, the person who wakes untangles those habits over time, learns to sit with unease without automatic reaction, and begins to orient decisions around inner clarity rather than outside validation. Vision means more than seeing shapes and colors with the eyes. Vision names the habit of noticing connections, meanings, and voices behind events, and blindness names the repetitive habit of taking appearances at face value and accepting the first easy explanation that arrives. The awake person learns to listen to small signals because those signals point toward larger currents, and the person who remains asleep lets headlines, habits, and loud opinion fill the gap where careful noticing should live. This difference matters far beyond theory because the decisions that follow any perception determine a life's direction, and misperception compounds into predictable mistakes while clear perception opens unexpected possibilities. The awake person notices patterns as a skill rather than as a gift, which means attention practices shape what is visible and what remains hidden. For example, a person who pays close attention will spot the way a colleague's tone shifts before stress grows into fight or retreat. And that early noticing allows a gentle word or timely boundary to change the outcome. The sleepwalker misses those precursors because attention moves on the surface, which forces response after the storm instead of before it. And the result repeats the same avoidable damage in career, love, and health. This distinction shows up in small daily ways. The person who reads mood beneath the words prevents escalation, and the person who reads only content misses the living feeling behind the sentence. Vision builds from careful habits that train the nervous system to slow down and hold doubt, rather than to rush towards certainty. And concrete practices change perception over months and years in the same way repeated walking cuts a new path through grass. Blindness rarely appears as total darkness. It usually lives as selective omission where strong emotions, cultural stories, and personal wounds hide certain facts from view while exaggerating others. And every blind spot carries the logic of preservation rather than truth. The person who defends an old story about who is right in the family shelters an old wound and therefore fails to see the present choice on the table, while the person who questions the old story sees options and new ways to relate. This difference becomes clear when strong beliefs meet contradictory evidence. Vision pauses and tests, and blindness doubles down and justifies, which creates very different outcomes for relationships and for public life. Freedom looks simple on the surface because people imagine it as travel, money, or doing exactly what feels good. But freedom actually lives deeper and means the capacity to choose where attention goes and to act from an inner compass rather than from habit, fear, or someone else's story. Chains do not always come as iron and rope. Most chains arrive as words, patterns, and quiet pulls on the mind that steer choices without loud commands. And those invisible bonds shape work, love, health, and the way a single day unfolds. Awake souls see the difference between being free and merely being allowed to do what culture approves, while sleepwalkers treat permission as freedom and therefore confuse absence of force with true liberty. Families hand down scripts, schools reward compliance, workplaces praise predictability, and screens reward immediacy, which means most people carry a map of the world that other people drew for them, and that inherited map becomes the first and strongest chain. Language tightens the grip because words like must, should, normal, and real carry authority that the body obeys without question, and people follow these words even when the path they suggest erodes joy or health. Society dresses those scripts in morality and convenience, and the result looks like common sense rather than chain, which makes escape hard because the prison appears to be the only sensible option. Money and status shape visible chains because they limit options and reward certain habits, and the desire to keep a paycheck or social standing convinces many people to trade time, creativity, and dignity for an illusion of security. Companies design products to keep eyes and hands busy, and those designs turn private attention into a public commodity, which means the modern chain often feels voluntary while it functions like captivity. Belief systems make another kind of bondage because identities that rest on single stories, good child, successful professional, worthy partner, collapse when life shifts, and people cling to those identities as if they were lifelines, which only tightens the chain. Spiritual language can become a clever disguise for control when people trade inner inquiry for dogma, and leaders can convert curiosity into obedience by naming their rules sacred. Awake souls learn how to hold belief gently instead of clutching it, and the practice of testing assumptions frees energy from defending a story and puts that energy back into living. Chains change how people love, create, and rest because habits limit the range of possible responses and make life feel smaller over time, and repeated small compromises accumulate into a life that looks comfortable while feeling quietly hollow. Presence means using the senses and the mind together so that life feels vivid, decisions match reality, and simple moments register as real, while numbness means turning down feeling to avoid pain so that days blur and choices follow habit instead of attention. People who practice presence notice the texture of a room, the tone in a voice, and the small changes in their own breath, because these details feed clear judgment and honest connection. And people who move through numbness miss those cues because the nervous system prefers safe sameness to the risk of feeling something difficult. This difference looks small in a single hour but becomes enormous across months and years because small acts of noticing build a life that tastes like something rather than a life that only looks like something on the surface. The body explains much of this gap because the nervous system decides whether attention opens or closes, and pressure, fear, or overload push many people into a protective shutdown that feels like empty calm while it actually thins perception. Attention freezing describes the specific moment when a person encounters discomfort and the mind narrows so quickly that sensory detail collapses, which leaves the person feeling flat, disconnected, or detached from their own choices. Trauma, chronic stress, sleepless nights, and constant digital stimulation all prime the nervous system to freeze more often. And when the nervous system prefers freeze, it begins to treat small challenges as threats, so that curiosity becomes rare and life shrinks to a predictable loop. Modern life creates special pressures that invite numbness, because screens, notifications, and non-stop entertainment deliver short, sharp hits of novelty and emotion while rewarding speed instead of depth. And the brain adapts by lowering baseline sensitivity so that ordinary moments stop registering as satisfying. People then chase louder images, faster content, and stronger feelings to feel awake, and that chasing gradually burns out the receptors that once responded to ordinary pleasure. People who create start from a different habit than people who consume, and that habit changes how days feel, because creators spend energy making something new, while consumers spend energy taking in what already exists. The maker builds with time and attention, and the taker lets other people's thought and feeling fill the day, which means creation asks for risk and muscle, while consumption asks for comfort and ease. This difference matters because the life that grows from making looks messy and alive, and the life that grows from consuming feels smooth at first and empty later. Platforms and products train most people to consume because services reward short bursts of attention and easy emotion, and these quick hits condition the brain to prefer novelty over depth so that scrolling feels like movement, even though it rarely changes anything of lasting value. The companies that design feeds test what keeps eyes on the screen, and their engineers tune models so that people receive a steady stream of small rewards, which makes attention thin and hungry, and steals time that could go toward making. The effect becomes practical. A person who watches endless videos gains temporary excitement but loses the slow, quiet hours that make learning and skill possible. Creators experience a different reward system because making produces a slow, growing satisfaction that comes from skill, feedback, and the act of finishing, and that satisfaction keeps returning in ways that no quick hit can match. The brain rewards small successes when a person practices, and those small wins accumulate into competence that changes how future challenges are met. Which means a person who writes one short page every morning will build the habit of completion, and then will have pages where there used to be none. Flow appears for creators when the work stretches ability without breaking it, and that flow feels sustained and nourishing rather than frantic and draining. People who move toward creation need both inspiration and structure because inspiration lights the first step and routine carries the steps forward, and relying on mood alone guarantees a stalled idea while combining a short daily ritual with a clear goal makes projects inevitable. Depth grows when curiosity turns into patient practice, and when questions keep arriving long after the first easy answer seems to finish the conversation. And shallow life grows when distraction and speed become the habit, so that nothing holds long enough to reveal its true shape. People who live with depth choose fewer quick pleasures and more slow commitments because slow commitments teach what the surface hides. And those commitments can be as small as reading one thoughtful page each morning, as steady as a weekly conversation with a trusted friend, or as demanding as a 3-year project that resists finish for the sake of learning. Each steady practice trains the mind to stay with difficulty instead of fleeing from it. Depth shows up in real time when a person listens long enough to notice the change in tone that signals truth, when a creator returns to an old piece and finds new meaning, and when a relationship contains silent rooms that people enter together instead of filling with noise, and those moments add up until life itself stops feeling like a collection of snapshots and begins to feel like a single, coherent story. The easiest way to build depth is to name one area where shallow habits dominate and to protect 15 minutes a day for a single, slow practice in that area. And the nervous system will reward that steadiness by making curiosity less anxious and more reliable. Energy behaves like currency because the body and mind spend it, store it, and trade it with other people. And awake people learn to manage energy instead of letting other people or algorithms spend it for them. Tiredness often looks like a lack of will, but fatigue usually begins long before the visible collapse when screens, rushed meals, fractured sleep, and emotional obligations quietly drain reserves. And the awake person pays attention to those invisible leaks by tracking what restores and what depletes across days. A simple habit that changes the pattern is to keep a short daily ledger where one writes the single activity that raised energy and the single activity that lowered energy, and repeated entries reveal patterns that words alone do not show. Once patterns appear, it becomes possible to guard time around restorative activities such as sunlight, slow movement, clean food, and real conversation. And those protections raise baseline vitality so that decisions feel less reactive and more chosen. Energy also shifts when boundaries get clearer because people who take on other people's anxiety as if it were their own will feel depleted fast. And learning to say no in small, specific ways protects capacity so that generosity becomes sustainable rather than bankrupting. Destiny grows when small choices point in the same direction for months and years. And drift happens when choices respond only to the next loud demand, so that life arrives like a surprise rather than like a design. People confuse destiny with grand visions and dramatic calls, but destiny often begins as a quiet pull that shows up as recurring interest, as a persistent dissatisfaction with comfortable routines, or as repeated invitations that return no matter how they get ignored. And awake people honor those small pulls to test whether they are genuine. The practical path from pull to purpose includes making tiny commitments that create feedback loops, trying a weekend class, volunteering once a month in the field that calls, saving a small portion of income toward a project, and asking 3 honest people whether they see a pattern. These steps produce information without requiring permanent change, and that information either confirms the pull or shows it to be temporary. Destiny also needs constraints because open-ended freedom often leads to distraction, and placing a limit such as a 12-week focus, a minimal budget, and a clear deadline creates a pressure that clarifies whether the calling carries forward energy or fizzles under friction. Please share this video with everyone you love and care about.